There was a woman in the city that men whispered about in the darkest corners of taverns, clubs, and alleyways. Her name was Isolde, but no one ever said it aloud. They only called her the Widow. The rumors about her were strange, unsettling, like the whispers of ghost stories told in hushed tones. Men would come into town, their faces flushed with excitement, eager to find love or lust or whatever they thought they sought, but no one ever saw them again. The first to go missing was a young man named Elias. He was a curious soul, new to the city, fresh-faced, and full of the kind of naive optimism that makes you the perfect target for someone like her. Isolde saw him from across the street, sitting alone in a tavern, the emptiness of his drink a reflection of his loneliness. She approached him, as she always did, with a warm smile, a soft touch, the kind of allure that made men forget their names. "Come with me," she whispered, her voice like velvet, pulling him from his seat with the same ease as one might pull a leaf from a tree. He followed, entranced. She led him down winding alleyways until they arrived at a small, nondescript door. Inside was an apartment that looked as innocuous as any other until one saw the tools. Neatly arranged on a table, knives, syringes, and other sharp instruments. His eyes widened when he noticed one item in particular, a long, gleaming, needle-like device. "Do you trust me, Elias?" Isolde asked, her breath hot against his ear as she trailed a finger along his spine. He nodded, but something in his chest tightened, an instinctual warning he couldn't name. He should have run, but he didn't, and it was too late. Days turned into weeks, and Elias was never heard from again. The tavern was quieter now, and the shadows longer. Still, men came. Men like Thomas, whose cocky grin had faded into a hollow confidence. He had heard the stories, but dismissed them as superstition. The city was too big, too bustling for rumors to be true. Isolde, with her soft eyes and perfect posture, was just another beautiful woman. But after a night spent in her embrace, he too disappeared without a trace. One by one, she claimed them. The men would visit her apartment, fall under her spell, and never leave. Each time, the process was the same. Her whispers would lull them into a dazed submission. She would bind them always under the guise of intimacy, always pretending to care. Then, with a quick, precise motion, she would pierce them with that same gleaming instrument, sending a sharp shock of agony into their bodies. It wasn't the initial pain that made her victims scream, it was the twisted, sinister device lodged deep inside them, slicing through tissues no one should ever touch. And when they bled out, when their hearts stopped, she was there holding their hand, whispering sweetly as if they had simply fallen asleep. But Isolde was never satisfied. She had no interest in love, no interest in pleasure. What she sought was something darker. Retribution. The men who entered her web were never truly innocent. They were greedy, self-absorbed, and, to her, a representation of all the suffering she'd endured, betrayals, abuse, and rejection. She had learned that they only ever cared for one thing, themselves. So she made sure they would never leave her grasp. She took what she wanted from them, their lives. And for each man who died in her grip, she felt a twisted sense of triumph. The city grew quiet. The missing men were forgotten, their names slowly fading from memory. It wasn't long before the whispers stopped. People stopped looking. The story of the widow was just another ghost story, something that happened years ago, lost in the passage of time. But somewhere in that quiet apartment, under the dim glow of a single candle, Isolde smiled, her hands covered in blood, and waited for the next poor soul to fall for her trap. The city was full of men, after all, and they were all too easy to kill.